Hey, it's Aaron Kushler. Welcome to another video. Today I want to take an opportunity and show you a behind the scenes of what I'm doing for my training. So at the moment in Australia, what is happening with COVID at the moment is restrictions are easing, particularly in Victoria, which is where I am. For the last few months, I haven't been doing the regular training. So normally my training is geared around training for the sport of strongman, trying to get really strong using a lot of odd objects. For the whole period of the lockdowns, I wasn't doing that type of training. So my training looked quite different. I was doing a lot more bodyweight type movements, things that only required like one set of dumbbells, very, very basic things. And it was good. It was good actually having a break. Now that everything's sort of easing, the restrictions are easing and everything's getting back on track, my training is changing yet again. And now I'm gearing up to make a return to the sport of strongman, and therefore I'm training more of that. And that's what I thought I'd run through today and give you guys a bit of a behind the scenes look at to what I'm doing. In the hopes that if you're trying to get back into this, get your strength numbers back to where they used to be or even better, this could be a really helpful video for you. So the first thing before we even get into this is you have to realize that, hey, if you've had some time off training and you come back to it, don't expect that you can just jump in right where you left off. I made that mistake in the beginning, and number one, you get disappointed, but number two, you just do more harm to yourself than good. If you throw yourself full bore into it and you're pulling up really sore, your joints are starting to ache, it's just going to mean that it's just going to take you longer. So really dialing it back and working on those fundamental things, getting really, really good at your technique is going to pay dividends. And the program I'm going to show you is one that I've kind of run before in the past, and it's worked really well for me. It is very simple and easy to follow. You may have seen it before, but the reason this works so well is just implementing the basic things over and over and over again, and we're adding small little tweaks to it as we go. So this, in a nutshell, is what I'm doing. It's known as a 5x5 program. It's a very, very common program. It's very simple, easy to follow. So my day one is broken down into 5x5. So basically 3 days a week, I'm doing 5x5, and then I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing on this day here. 5 sets of 5 reps for each of the exercises here. Okay, so it's really simple. We're training in the 5 rep range, which is really designed to build some strength on you reasonably quickly. The movements that I've geared it around are movements that are going to give me a lot of benefit. So namely, this works really, really well if you have some type of squat. Now, it can be a back squat, it can be a front squat. I've chosen the back squat because that builds a lot of strength in general. I will be changing it up pretty soon to a front squat to hit more of the quads, to work more of the upper back, but that's probably too much information for this video. I might explain that in another video. So really simple, keep it simple. I've got back squat here, overhead press, so strict press. The sport of strongman requires a really strong overhead press. If you're very, very proficient at that, strongman is going to be much easier for you. So I practice it a lot. And then a chin up, so a vertical pulling movement, so I'm pulling myself up. Now these are weighted as well. So I'm doing 5 reps of each of these movements. So I'll do 5 sets of 5 on the back squat, 5 sets of 5 on the overhead press, and the same with chin-ups. Then we go to day 2. We got, again, 5x5. Now, the main thing, let me just adjust my hand. There we go. The main thing with this is, with the squat, what I've found works really well is to do that across all of the days. Okay, so you're squatting 3 times a week. Now, a lot of people might think that's too much. Some people might go, well, what about rest in between? You are having a day of rest in between. So my current setup, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then a Saturday or a Sunday, I do a strongman day, but we'll talk about that in a sec. On day 2, we've got back squats again, close grip bench press this time, so we're working slightly differently to an overhead press, and then I've got deadlifts in here. So they are only in once a week, primarily because it is a very taxing movement, and as you build up in terms of weight, which I'll explain in a second, you're going to be making bigger jumps week to week. So it's going to be harder on your central nervous system. And if we overdo the work and overstress our central nervous system, it makes all of this not work as well. And then I've got dips as well. So dips I've found are very, very effective at driving up your overhead press. So if that's something you want to improve, I highly recommend doing dips. So these are the ones on the dip bars, you know, you're putting either weight strapped to yourself or you're just doing a body weight. You're coming down, your arms coming back, and then you're pressing back up, those kind of dips. So not the ones on the bench. Then on day 3, so we jump across here. So this is my Friday. Again, back squats, overhead press, and this time bent over row. So this one's very, very similar to day 1, except we've changed out the chin-ups for the bent over row. So again, we're working the horizontal pulling. Strongman is very, very demanding on the upper back, and if you have a really strong upper back, this is going to pay dividends. So developing that through something like a bent over row, you can go heavy, you can really train the movement and get much, much stronger with that. So that is why I've chucked that in there. Now, just quickly before we move on to that day, with the 3 main days, so the 3 lifting days, the way the loading goes with this, what I did as a kind of like a start to this, as a starting point, if you're just coming back to training, don't go, you know, where your max used to be. Go well under, say, 50% of what that used to be, and just get used to the technique of it and getting used to being under the bar again, under that sort of load, and build yourself back up. Because if you start this too high too quickly and we start making jumps, as I'm going to show you, you're going to burn out. You're going to hit a ceiling really quickly, and it's going to just put you on hold. You're not going to be making any strength gains. So what I did, my previous back squat best ever was 190 kilos. I started off at 80 kilos. So when I started this program a few weeks back, I was squatting 80 kilos. Now, each day, if I was to get 5 sets of 5 at 80 kilos, the next day I'd add 2.5 kilos to it. So on my Wednesday, it would be 82.5. Hit 5 sets of 5. On the Friday, it would be 85. And then the following week, it would go to 87, 90, 92.5. So as you can see, the more often you do it and the more you hit that 5x5, you're adding weight to it, and it quickly adds up. You know, you can add 5 kilos a week consistently for a long period of time. You're getting good at the movement because you're doing it so often, and you're not pulling up really sore. It's not enough volume in each session to make you really sore. In fact, you actually pull up really good, and then you can make the next gains the next session. And that's the same theme across all of these. So overhead press, you know, start at, you know, about 50% of what you used to do, and just build back up from there. So adding 2.5 kilos the next time we do it. So if it was, say, 40 kilos on this day, day 1, day 3 comes around and we've got overhead press again, we would go to 42.5. And the same with things like chin-ups. So you'd start with body weight, and then you might add 2.5 kilos. The next time you do it, so the next week, would be 5 kilos. Then it would be 7.5, 10, and you keep going up in that fashion. All of these movements are exactly the same, so they go up in that sort of fashion. All but the deadlift. The deadlift is the only one of all these movements that go up by 5 kilos per week. So instead of you're just making 2.5 kilo jumps every time you do it, because we're only doing it once a week, we make a 5 kilo jump. So if you start at 100 kilos, the next week is 105, then it goes 110, 115, and so on and so forth. So that in a nutshell is the 3 main lifting days, and that's what I'm doing. Then on my other day, so I've got a strongman focused day. Now this day is primarily focused on the carrying events. So namely for me, the farmer's walk, sandbag carry, and then I've got sandbag loading as well, because that movement, anytime you're picking anything up off the ground and loading it up, it mimics things like a deadlift, and strongman requires a very, very strong deadlift. That whole motion of just picking things up and putting them over a bar or onto a ledge is something strongman relies on heavily. So for the farmer's walk, what I'm doing with this is I'm going up 5 kilos a week per hand when I'm doing this. So if I'm starting at 80 kilos per hand, the next week would be 85, then it would be 90, then 95. I didn't start with 80 kilos when I did this. I started back at 50 kilos a hand, and I'm just building up week to week with this. So I'm not trying to go too fast, making jumps too quickly, because that's just going to set me back. Sandbag carry, my sandbag is 100 kilos, so I'm aiming to just use that. And what I'm going to do to increase the load with this is just increase the distance over time, week to week. I want to get proficient at being able to carry that sandbag, pick it up and carry it for longer and longer distances as I go. The sandbag loading, it's the same sandbag, so again, it's 100 kilos. With this, what I'm doing is actually loading it over the yoke. So the easiest way for me to make that harder, to make progress with that, is to raise up the bar in terms of the height that I'm loading the sandbag over. So as it gets easier and I get stronger with it, I'll make the bar go up higher. All in all, it's a pretty simple program to follow. It's very, very simple in terms of programming it. It's also very, very effective. And the hard part is, as with any program, is just having the discipline to stick to it. If you just did this and you didn't get distracted and you just kept adding the 2.5 kilos, each session that you go in, you are going to see a massive jump pretty quickly in your numbers. The hard part is we get distracted by, what we see on social media, other people lifting really heavy, and we want to jump ahead and, jump the gun. So if you're just starting out and you're getting back into strength training, this is one idea. You don't have to do this. This is just how I set it up. But a 5x5 program, it's a pretty easy program to follow, and it works. It will get you stronger. Beyond this, once, I might run this until I start hitting a bit of a plateau. And a plateau with this program looks like you can't hit the 5x5 on a particular movement for several weeks in a row. So let's say, for example, we get to a back squat weight where I can't hit 5 sets of 5. I might do, 3 sets of 5, and then the last 2 I'm getting like 3 reps or 2 reps. You stay the same weight until the next day comes around, you try the same weight. If you can't hit 5x5, you don't go up. You keep the same weight until you can. And if you can't hit that and you're doing that for like 2 weeks in a row, and then you have a bit of a deload and you still can't hit it, that's where you've sort of hit a bit of a ceiling and we might need to change things up. But nowhere near at that point at the moment. Things are working really, really well. The squats are going up continuously for me. The overhead press, I'm honestly having a little bit of trouble with that. My right shoulder is playing up a little bit, but I'm willing to just take a bit of time to ease off that. I don't have any competitions that I'm training for, so I can take the time to make sure that shoulder is all good before pushing the numbers, because the worst thing in the world for me right now would be to try to get ahead of myself, push myself too hard and cause an injury, and that's going to set me back further. So guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope it gave you a bit of first of all, an idea to the type of training that I'm doing currently, but also for yourself. If you're looking for a really basic program, something easy to follow, that's a really simple, easy way to do it. And that is more geared towards the sport of strongman. So if that's something that isn't of interest to you, maybe you're just wanting to, get a bit stronger, yours might be a little bit different. You might have different exercises in each of the days here. It allows you to change it around. So guys, if that was helpful, let me know. Give me a like on the video, as well as subscribe to this channel. This is my new channel where I'm going to be sharing a lot of my own training stuff with you, and more stuff geared around building strength and even training for the sport of strongman. Guys, as always, if you found this video helpful, ask any questions. If you have any comments as well, just leave them down below. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.